Yo guys,
Yo,
what is
what's up,
going
guys?
on?
Welcome back.
JPS back for another video, and I'm here with Stefan and Arturo.
Yo, what's good?
And today we're going to be reacting to Australian culture shocks, 10 weird things about life in Australia. So, what do you guys know about life in Australia? Stefan?
They're super aggressive.
What?
I'm talking about sports. Like
Oh, I forgot because we've watched the AFL videos. So is that your only glimpse of Australia? For real?
I know there's like a lot of exotic animals.
Yeah, you're right.
Big spiders,
Yeah.
Big spiders. Scary spiders.
kangaroos that'll.
Kangaroos that are aggressive. Bro, they're
Komodo
strong.
dragons.
I don't know if that's Australian, but
Motorcycle games.
I would not live there.
they do have what because of the wildlife.
Spiders.
Bro,
Good.
the
That
thing
shit
is,
low-key-
they say you get used to it, like, and a lot of them aren't poisonous.
I don't know if I can get used to that, bro. The snakes and all that shit, like that shit
Nah,
is crazy.
imagine you-
We gotta react to an Australian wildlife video, like, yo.
Yeah. Ooh.
How do you feel something slither up in your bed while you're sleeping?
Oh hell no.
I mean, we have snakes here though.
But it's not like
I
that.
had a snake like in my room, like, just last year.
Oh yeah, I'm
In
talking
here?
about that thing.
No, other house. But anyways, let's get into this, bro. We're digressing. 10 weird things about life in Australia.
What's going on, guys? I'm Pete from Aussie English. Welcome to this episode today where I'm going to be talking about culture shock in Australia. Let's get into it. All right, so I was
Australian
recently
English.
chatting to my wife, trying to come up with a list of things that she had culture shock with when she came to Australia. So if you don't know, my wife is originally from Brazil. Hey, Hakel, if you're
Brazil.
watching. And so she came to Australia, and obviously Brazil is a different country, different culture. When
His
she
beard
got
is
to
shaped up
Australia,
real
there were
nicely.
a bunch of
I like the
different
neckline.
You
things
said what?
His beard is shaped up real nicely. I like the, I
she
like the neckline.
found strange.
It's like perfect.
Cultural aspects of Australian life that she found different, weird,
Australian
strange.
life.
So I made a list,
Yo.
and now let's go through
Made a
10
list.
of those things, okay? And
The accent is heavy. In
I like the Australian accent. It sounds super friendly, and a lot of the people are super friendly.
It does. sound
Strong.
really
I have
funny.
yet to meet an Australian who wasn't friendly. I'm not gonna lie, like they're nice people, bro.
Alright, mate.
Good day, mate.
let me know in the comments below if you found them weird as
Below.
well. All right. Number 1, cars are incredibly cheap secondhand
Really?
in Australia. So cars in Australia are actually really expensive when they're new, at least as far as I know, comparatively speaking, especially if you get into luxury cars.
They use euros?
European.
They use euros.
Yeah, what's the currency?
Australian dollars,
Oh, they have
Oh,
Australian
okay.
dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's a weird ratio to the United States, and also things in Australia tend to be a bit more expensive because think of how isolated they are.
Right.
With
They're like, aren't they
trade.
like an island basically?
Yeah,
They are
it
an
is.
island, right? Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
So it's hard to import stuff, I imagine. Yeah.
Takes a lot more. So
European luxury cars like
that's why cars are so
Mercedes, BMW,
expensive,
and
like
Audi.
luxury
In
cars.
Australia, we used to have the Ford and Holden manufacturers here building the cars in Australia. They no longer do that. When they did that, though, the government put tax on any cars that were luxury cars more than $60,000. And so you'll find that a
Damn.
lot of these cars from overseas that are
3%.
luxury cars, especially those from Europe, will be very expensive compared to other places in the world.
Makes
She
sense.
also found that
Bro, that means it's 80K. If it's a 60K car, you have to pay an extra 20K just because luxury
Yeah.
tax.
Right.
Nah, that's
That's
wild.
wild.
second-hand cars were incredibly cheap. In Brazil, cars, whether new or second-hand, are apparently much more expensive, relatively speaking, than they are here. For instance, when I bought my second-hand Ford Falcon that I got recently, I recently gave it away though, but when I bought that second-hand, it was about 12 years old and it cost me $3,000. When I bought my first Holden wagon, again, it was about 18 years old and it cost me $2,500. So it wasn't very much at all. So there you go.
Wait,
In
what?
Australia, cars, if they're second-hand, can be
Yeah,
incredibly
pretty cheap.
Cars are so expensive nowadays.
Number 2,
Yeah.
cuts.
Yeah, this video has to be old because
Yeah.
cars nowadays. Ooh.
Like, you're not finding a $3,000 car.
of meat. This is one that totally caught me by surprise. I had never thought about this, but the cuts of meat in Australia are very different from how they are in Brazil. One example was when I was looking up how to do Brazilian barbecues in Australia. I wanted to buy some meat and I wanted to try and do them authentically Brazil style, churrasco. I tried to get the cut of meat for picanha. Picanha is a style of Brazilian barbecue where they buy the rump part of the beef, like from the bull, right? And they put salt on it. There's fat on the beef, and they do it on a barbecue.
Yeah,
I tried to go and get this.
That sounds good.
and
I'm not gonna lie.
I couldn't find it anywhere.
Brazilian,
I couldn't
bro.
find
Fogo de
the
chão.
picanha.
Have you had Brazilian barbecue?
Fogo de chão.
Fogo de chão.
Oh,
Brazilian
yeah.
Steakhouse,
Been there?
bro.
Yeah,
that
I've been
place
there.
is so
Place
far.
is-
Damn,
Oh my
that's
God.
Brazilian barbecue.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
Yeah.
That's yeah, like their meat is so it's so
Flavor.
good,
Oh
bro.
my gosh.
I want to go to Brazil. Brazil would be a really nice place to go.
It would.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah,
beaches
kind of.
there.
Rio de Janeiro. Is that how it's pronounced?
We gotta go sometime.
That'd be
Meat
tough.
at any different butchers that I went to. So I had to specifically ask them to get the entire part of the cow that they normally chop up into different cuts and remove that part for me to then use. Because actually for them, they would chop it up and use it as porterhouse steaks, which were cut through that slice of meat usually, like this, as opposed to taking out the whole section, the rump section, and using that instead. So I had no idea that the cuts of meat in Australia are very different from those in Brazil. And if you want to get the certain
guy
cuts
Brazilian?
of meat that you...
Is he Brazilian? Is he
I think his wife is Brazilian.
His wife.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why he's comparing.
Yeah, I was about to say, like,
His
his accent is Australian. I was like, there's no
He's
way
a-
this guy's
I think he's
Brazilian.
Australian.
Yeah.
want to use from other cultures, other countries, you might have to go and specifically ask a butcher to cut them for you. Number 3, toilet paper. Toilet paper. So I was aware that toilet paper isn't a universal thing when I went to Southeast Asia for the first time. I went to Indonesia, where some of the motels and hotels would have toilet paper because I guess they were used to foreigners from the West coming to Indonesia. But a lot of the time they had a hole in the ground and a bucket of water that you would use to wash yourself.
What?
Makes sense, but in Australia
Yeah.
we use toilet
No.
paper. One thing that was shocking to Kel was the fact that in Australia you can...
And then sometimes they have rocks, and you kind of
Rocks?
Use rocks
Yeah.
to wipe your.
and then you
Arse.
get them wet and then clean them off with the water.
Nah, I'm good.
What?
My parents said they had to deal with that in India when they
Tight.
visited.
You have like some blood here, I think. You bleeding?
Maybe, but the show must go
Doesn't
on.
care.
Fight through the pain. It's like, no.
flush toilet paper down the toilet, because in Brazil the sewer system isn't set up to be able to handle flushing of toilet paper, so instead of flushing it you have to put it in a bin next to the toilet and empty that every day. So there you go. Toilet paper was one of those strange things in Australia that you can flush down the toilet. Number 4, coffee culture in Australia. Any of you guys who have come to Australia and
Starbucks failed in Australia
Did it really?
because they got all these cafe, like they take their coffee seriously, bro.
Oh. my
Starbucks
goodness.
didn't come in with the plan. They crashed out. I'm telling you, bro.
Starbucks didn't make the cut.
coffee culture in Australia. Any of you guys who have come to Australia and spent a significant amount of time in some of the big cities in particular like Sydney and Melbourne will know that we are mental, we are crazy about our coffee. We take that stuff seriously. There are probably hundreds of cafes in the CBDs of Sydney and Melbourne alone. The quality of the beans that are used, the variety...
CBD stands for Central Business District.
Well,
Central Business District.
So just hundreds in downtown areas of the cities.
Okay.
of Sydney and Melbourne alone. The quality of the beans that are used, the variety of different coffees that you can get, and the artisanry that is used, the skill with which people are trained up to make the coffee is pretty much as good as it ever gets anywhere in the world. At least I'm told, right? I used to work in a cafe and that was one of the things they prided themselves most on, the quality of their coffee. So it may be a shock when you come to Australia that the coffee is very, very good. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places. Probably not very good if you go to Starbucks, because that's American style, and Americans, they have their own way of doing coffee. Number 5,
he's talking
barbecues
trash.
at camping
Yes.
grounds.
He's very respectful about it.
So again,
Yeah.
I grew up in Australia. I used to go camping all the time, several times a year with my parents. We would go to places in the bush, forests, national parks, places like Wilson's Promontory in Victoria. Every time you go to those places, there tend to be places where you can barbecue food, you can cook food. Quite often they have gas. You might have to put some money in there to be able to use the gas. Maybe you have to bring your own fuel for the barbecue. There might be some places, campsites, where you have to make the fire yourself. But pretty much every campsite you go to will have some kind of barbecue for you to cook food. And it's the same for a lot of beaches that have tourist spots where people come.
That's low-key hella fire.
It is.
That's a really good idea.
Australians have a good time. And you saw that the picture of that beach earlier?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They got some beautiful, beautiful beaches, bro.
I imagine, yeah, because they're an island. Oof.
Same for a lot of beaches that have tourist spots where people come in large numbers and they want to have food.
Wow.
So there's barbecues everywhere. This was something that Kel found really strange, and it wasn't the cultural norm in Brazil for you to go to camping grounds or to beaches and find places to just barbecue your own food. If you wanted to do that, you'd have to bring your own. BYO Barbie. In Australia, you don't have to.
That's
Number
actually very
6,
convenient.
and this is one that Brazilians always tell me whenever I meet them. Our secondhand culture in Australia is different from Brazil, probably elsewhere in the world as well. So what happens if I have a couch in my house that I don't want anymore? I don't just throw it out. I don't just give it away to friends, although, you could do that if you wanted. Quite often what will be done is it'll be taken outside, put on the nature strip with some cardboard
we do that
that
here.
says free.
We do that here.
Yeah, I think they do it like way more though.
Like religiously?
Yeah.
Yeah, because not every house here does it, but like I do see that, but not very often though.
Yeah, we have some yard sales, but
Right.
I don't know. Like, did you also notice how he called front yard nature strip?
Yeah.
That's what they call a lawn.
Nature strip? What
Can
the?
I make
That's kind of fire though.
Can I borrow your nature strip?
It sounds funny.
Seems real
Free.
elegant.
And so people know that if they see junk or chairs, TVs, furniture, all that sort of stuff, if they see that in the nature strip out the front of someone's house, they know that it's free. Someone can take that. That it's free to a good home. That anyone can come and pick that up and take it home. And we do that
Yeah, I've
all
seen
the
that
time.
too.
A lot of the stuff that we
yeah.
have in our house is either bought secondhand online through places like Gumtree or Facebook, or we've seen it on the side of the road and thought, we don't want to waste that, we want to use it, so let's just bring it home and use it. So that's something you'll notice in Australia quite a lot. When you drive around the streets, there'll be furniture on nature strips, there'll be secondhand stuff, and it's free to be picked up. Number 7, drinking water from the tap. This was another one that shocked me quite a lot because it's something I take for granted, that the water in our water system that gets brought to our houses.
We take this for granted too.
Mm.
Being able to drink from the tap. You love that filter water, but the fact that you have the option, because some countries the tap water is not good.
Yeah, not drinking.
A lot of countries.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Is drinkable. You can drink the water out of the shower, when you're having a bath, you can drink any of the water that comes out of the pipes in your house, generally, right? Should be all good. That is not the case elsewhere in the world. Quite often when I was traveling in Southeast Asia, that would definitely not be something that foreigners like me should do, because we would quite often end up with sickness, end up on the toilet, riding the porcelain throne for quite a few days with a digestive illness. In Australia, it tends to be fine. We put chlorine in the water to kill everything. There's fluoride in there too for your teeth. So that was something that really shocked me. Elsewhere in the world, you may not be able to drink out of the taps. I know that in Brazil, they quite often have purifiers for their water right next to their sinks in their kitchens. In Australia, you won't see those things. There may be purifiers on the taps themselves, or people may have some kind of equipment in the fridge, a jug that purifies the water. Generally, anywhere in Australia that has flowing water that comes out of taps, it's fine to drink, unless it says otherwise. Number 8, and I'm totally guilty of this, leaving things unlocked. So we live in Ocean Grove, which is a seaside town down the coast, about an hour and a half away from Melbourne. And quite often, I leave the doors unlocked in the house. I leave my car unlocked. It tends to be a very safe place. There's very little robbery.
I'm not leaving nothing.
This is the biggest culture shock for me, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I never leave anything unlocked, ever.
No.
You can't?
That's
Not
like a
risking
conscious
that.
thing you have to like remember to do, because if not,
I
it's
feel
not
like
safe.
that's pretty throughout the United States. I think everyone agrees.
Yeah.
San Francisco, do you know how many carjackings that happen?
Every city there's
Oh my
carjackings
gosh.
Right.
and house robberies, everything.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Bro,
That shit is crazy.
that would be cool though if you could just leave your door completely unlocked.
Yeah, now I worry.
Wow.
But no, that's not realistic here.
Not here.
I leave my car unlocked. It tends to be a very safe place. There's very little robbery, there's very little criminality taking place in Ocean Grove. Most places in Australia
That's insane.
tend to be pretty safe, and you won't see things like massive locks on doors, grills protecting windows and doors, and people leaving their cars and their houses unlocked. Don't get me wrong, I definitely lock it from time to time when I'm going away or I'm going out for a long period of time and no one's at home. But this was something that my wife Kel from Brazil found very strange, that you would just leave doors open, or you would go to bed and have the gauze doors shut at night, which could just be opened to let air in. She would find that very strange that they would not be locked, and also that you wouldn't lock your car. Number 9, walking the streets at night. So when I met my wife, I was living in Melbourne, in North Melbourne, and quite often I would be busy during the day studying, and then I would go to the gym, I would go and do jiu-jitsu, I would come home, and at maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I would go for a run, or I'd go for a walk, listen to a podcast, and just walk around the streets. I would walk through some of the parks, like Royal Park or Princes Park, and I'd be like, it's not a problem. That was a massive no-no for Kel. That was
It's a massive no-no here. Walking through a park at
Definitely.
night in a city?
Yeah.
Nah,
Are you
it's
crazy?
not safe.
Yeah, that's
My head would be on the swivel, bro.
yeah. Like I'm definitely like listening to a podcast. No, I would have to be like
Yeah,
completely-
headphones
yeah, headphones in. No, yeah. That's not no.
That's
Yeah. With noise cancellation.
Yeah, no, that's
Nah.
was something that she would never, ever, ever do, because in Brazil, it's relatively unsafe to walk around by yourself at night, especially in places like parks where there's no light. So that was something that kind of shocked me as well. I was like, well, it's Australia. Well, it's pretty safe here. You can sort of walk
It's
around
Australia.
anywhere and it's, you're fine. Obviously, we have our own fair share of crime,
It's
and
like Germany.
sometimes bad things do
Safe.
happen to people,
Yeah.
but usually you can walk around at night, especially in somewhere like a CBD, a city like Melbourne or Sydney, and you're perfectly safe. So that was something that she found very strange. That was a big culture shock for her when she found out that I would sometimes go for a walk around midnight throughout Melbourne, throughout the parks, with music in my ears or listening to a podcast, for an hour or so, and it was no big deal. But yeah, there you go. Number 10, guys, the very last one for this episode in Australia is that there is very little rubbish or littering in Australia
must be nice.
compared to a lot of other countries.
can't relate.
Yeah.
Way too much littering here. It's
Lots.
honestly sad.
Everywhere, man.
Yeah, a lot of people contribute, and it doesn't look like it's ever gonna end.
Definitely
Never
not.
will end.
No.
Oh, it's gonna be littering.
Culturally, this is a big no-no. So I cringe every time I see someone smoking who throws their cigarette butt on the ground, because usually there's a bin within walking distance that they could just put the cigarette out and throw it in the bin. The same with throwing newspapers or any kind of rubbish, bottles, whatever it is, on the ground. That tends to be a very big social no-no. You don't do that. You put it in the trash.
That's
We
a
have
good
bins
thing.
all over the
That's-
country,
yeah.
in parks, on
Yeah.
streets, where you can throw your rubbish out. So in Australia, littering, it occurs, people definitely litter, but it is a social no-no. You will quite often be yelled at, or people will say something if you do that in front
Wow.
of people, okay? So that's it for this episode, guys.
That's
I hope you
nice.
enjoyed it.
That's low-key.
Imagine we had that here.
Yeah.
Like-
I feel like that's a really nice
a
cultural norm to
social
have
rule.
enforced.
Yeah.
You know what video I really want to show you guys is maybe an Australian wildlife video or Australian natural park video, so you guys can get a view of what it's really like.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
There's some beautiful sights, but that was
Wow.
10 Australian culture shocks. What was the craziest one for you guys?
Honestly,
I would say leaving the door unlocked. That's
that
for
one, but
me.
the littering one, just now, that's kind of
That's definitely, yeah. And I think they're all positive culture shocks.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing bad, really.
No, not really.
In my eyes.
Mm-mm.
walking the streets at night too. That's a pretty.
It's a big
Surprising.
plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.